You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Ian, look at this.
What, it's a police box? What on earth's he doing here? I mean, these things are usually on the street. I feel it. Feel it, you feel it?
It's a faint vibration.
It's alive.
Earth Station Who, a fun mashup celebrating nearly 50 years of Doctor Who universe. Hold tight. You never know where the TARDIS is going next.
Who are you?
I'm glad you asked that again. Bit of adrenaline, dash of outrage, and a hint of panic knitted my brain back together. I know exactly who I am. I'm the Doctor. Sorting out fair play throughout the universe. Now please, get off this planet while you still have a choice.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Earth Station Who podcast. The countdown is on, folks. 3 more episodes now. 3, including this one. And that's what we'll have for 2020 of Doctor Who. That's right, folks. We are talking all about the haunting of Villa Diodati. And it was an interesting episode, to say the least. And some people really loved it. Some people were, once again, like normal, were like, "Ow, I didn't like it." And that's the voices they said it in, too. It's really awesome. And we're going to talk all about it. And it's going to be great to talk to about it. We've got some great people up here. But remember, as always, we like to say, we are going to spoil the heck out of this one. So if you haven't seen it yet, please, please, please put us on pause, or listen to us be spoiled, whatever you guys want. But we are going to spoil this one. We have a lot to talk all about it. So you've been warned. Let's welcome this week's crew in. Sitting in as our special guest this week, let's welcome back to the show, Dr. Scott Viguie.
Hello, everyone.
Or should I say the very tired Dr. Scott Viguie?
Yes, fresh from an Acrocon, where we were the science track. We were the science track for the run of the convention. So it's a pleasure to be here to talk Doctor Who.
That is awesome. I'm sure, this ties into some of the science probably you talked about even a little bit.
Well, we actually did have a Franken science panel, yes.
I saw that on your schedule, so that's why I thought Dr. Scott would be perfect for this episode. So it's awesome. I'm glad to have you back, sir.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
And we have our regulars, my co-hosts, my compatriots. Of course, the lovely Mary Ogle's here.
Hi, everybody. It is great to be here.
Oh, great to have you, Mary. And, of course, Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Okay. For what? He hasn't said, but he is ready. So that's good to be able to talk about this. And once again, I kept on thinking, oh, my God, what did Mike Gordon think of this one?
Wow.
It's becoming a regular theme when I watch Doctor Who now.
We're very worried about Mike.
I know. Is this the one that pushes him over the edge or not? So,
we shall see.
We shall see. But it's going to be very interesting to talk about, and we definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. Please write us at our station who@esonetwork.com. Definitely would like to hear what you have to say, what your thoughts are on this. We got a lot to talk about this one, and definitely would love to hear, some thoughts on this. We've been starting to actually, and it was my bad for not doing it this week. We'll do it for the last 2 episodes. What we've been doing on Earth Station 1, a couple hours before we start recording, I post, put a little thing up on our Facebook group. Hey, what did you think of this week's episode? We definitely would love to hear from you. I'm going to do this for the last 2-parters, the last 2-parter of the series, and see what people think. I think we got a lot of great people in our group, and we love hearing from you guys. So this is your way for you guys to get involved. So definitely look for it next week, probably on Tuesday of next week. So definitely do that. And, of course, we want to give a big shout-out to our patrons. Hello, patrons at home who are listening. Yes, that's right. If you are listening through Patreon, you got this 48 hours before the rest of the world. So it's a little bit of a bonus and a thank you for, helping support the ESO network. All you have to do to get something like this is go to patreon.com/ESO network, and you'll get Earth Station 1, Earth Station Who, and the brand new Dragon Con report. which has number 2 coming in the next week or so. So you're going to be looking for that, and you'll get that before everybody else does as a member of the Patreon group. And you also will get exclusive podcasts. There's a new podcast coming your way very, very soon. And I know Mike has been doing stuff with Ashley Pauls, her looking at Westerns.
Yep.
Exclusive. And we have other cool things happening in 2020. And Patreons, as long as you're a member, you get really cool stuff coming your way. So thank you for everyone who's been supporting us. And, we tip our hat towards you and everything. And if I was wearing a hat, I'd do that, but I tip my headphones instead. So very cool. With that being said, let's hop in with Doctor Who news. The biggest piece of Doctor Who news that we got this week, and it's kind of sad, especially for us podcasters out there. They've announced that because of schedules, because of rotations, because of writing stories and such, they are not going to be starting principal filming for Doctor Who season 13 until September of 2020. I know they've already filmed. I know they've already filmed the New Year's special. It's going to be a Dalek story. No big surprise. They've had pictures of it. So I'm not spoiling anything of it. But season 13 itself, which we were hoping we'd maybe get again right from the New Year's on. Nah, we're not getting that. No, we probably won't get, if we're lucky, we'll get late spring, early summer for the new season of Doctor Who. So,
I have a theory.
What? Do tell, sir.
Okay, the fact that they're putting it on the scheduling and time to write the stories, I mean, you could come up with 1,000 administrative details that could stall things out, but that's a bunch of BS. I think that if they really wanted to, they could, because they did at one point. There used to be season after season, back to back to back. And what it is probably is just marshalling of resources. I don't know if the BBC wants to pay for Doctor Who as much as they used to, or if they're amortizing it over time. But, I mean, something more to the heart of that is probably what's going on. Either that, or there might be some truth to how long it takes to write the episodes. Every season, kill all the slate of writers and get a whole new slate of new ones, I guess. Something along those lines. But there's no reason why they couldn't take their flagship show and give us something new every year on a believable, predictable basis.
I know, but they don't. BBC doesn't do that regularly with any of their series lately.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's more of a systemic problem. It's not Doctor Who.
Yeah, right. It's not just Doctor Who, and so you can't just blame Chibnall on it.
It's not him. It's not him. It's just that I think the BBC isn't supporting Doctor Who like it used to, and they've decided that they're going to, they'll marshal it out because it's probably really expensive, and it's more complicated than anything else, and it's the only thing that people will come and take a look at. At one time they would delay Doctor Who because they didn't want conflict with the Olympics. There's 1,000 other reasons why they'll delay Doctor Who.
And this is an Olympic year.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard that the Olympics is part of the reason, because a lot of the people that work on Doctor Who, the technical staff, is going to be working on the Olympics.
Yeah.
I've heard as a whole the BBC has gotten a little bit more limited in their resources. So I don't think it's I don't think the end is nigh for BBC, but I do think that they are relating to some issues, adjusting to this new climate of programming that where people are getting their entertainment. So and I will say, for the past couple years now, I haven't felt like the BBC has shown that they think that Doctor Who is one of their flagship shows.
I agree.
Yeah, they don't treat it like one.
I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, and I think they, I don't know what the numbers are as far as how much money it gives them. Provides for them, but I just don't get the feeling that they're, that they're really invested in the Doctor Who as they have been maybe in the past decade.
I mean, I've joked before, but if the BBC is looking for a fictional doctor that travels through space and time and bends the laws of physics, but only does an episode once every 4 years, they could talk to me. You know.
And Scott himself is a special effect as it is.
Yeah, I am. I'm practically CGI.
Exactly.
So, as it is, it seems like there is a business model problem. But for all of us out here in the non-BBC world, it's like, well, this is simple. You know, you take a product as good as Doctor Who. If money's the problem, there's ways to raise that money. It's just that it's not the BBC way, and so therefore it's going to go down with the ship.
Well, exactly. And that's what we're finding out is, and also remember, folks, BBC also has a lot more competition than it did 10 years ago.
Well, they didn't care about competition until recently.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But now they do. And they're finding, what are they putting up against? There's all these other networks now on cable or satellite. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And they have to take that into effect. And also, and this gets back into the whole thing that we've talked about a zillion times about ratings, how you can't go by the ratings of how many people just watch it live because people don't watch TV live anymore.
Right.
And, you can't do that. I don't remember the last time I watched anything live. Actually, I do. I watched The Crisis on Infinite Earths live because I didn't want to be spoiled. But, it's just like Doctor Who is on DVR, a lot of the DC shows or we just got done watching Witcher and we literally, we're watching it, we were streaming it and we didn't watch it when it first started. We jammed it all into probably 3 days. So we watched the whole series.
You raised a very good question. I mean, 40 years ago, it was how many people could watch it live. And there was technology to be able to verify that and be able to approximate, okay, well, there's X number of households in the United States or in the UK and X number of TVs. And we can tell roughly what was being watched at the time. And we're done. But in this channel deviation where you can watch things on demand on your own schedule, how can they possibly know what the audience for Doctor Who is? And just because it doesn't match the live numbers that it used to, doesn't mean that audience is gone. It just means that they may be watching it tomorrow morning.
Right. Yeah,
nope, exactly.
You just can't, you have to adapt. I mean, it is an entirely new marketing system out.
But I think because of all that flexibility, I don't think it's going to be a way for marketers to be able to know. I mean, they're going to come up with some sort of statistic to try to guess. But that's going to make it even, the more you add that statistical error, the more there's going to be error to that response.
Mm-hmm. And that's the excuse I use for my podcasts all the time. So,
well, that's what I mean. Advertisers always want hard numbers, but you can't really give them that anymore because there's so much time shifting. And so, but I still think the BBC perhaps doesn't treat Doctor Who with quite the respect it should for something that's
so loved.
Yeah, so loved.
I think it's also, as much of a staple as it is for the BBC. I mean, this is a show that has no signs of ending. But it's not EastEnders, right? It's not. It's significantly more expensive than EastEnders. Significantly more expensive. Well, I don't know if it's more expensive, but shows like their dancing show, whatever that one's called. But
Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah, like shows like that they can put on pretty easily and they can last a long time. But I do wonder. I'm aware of a lot of stuff that's over there, but I can't think of another BBC show that's lasted as long as New Who has.
No.
Even though they go through sort of a renewal with a different showrunner every so often and all that, it's still the same show. So you've got a lot of, expenses to keep this show on. That's just inherent to having a show that's been around for a decade. And will it take a break at some point? Do they see that what would it take? I've often wondered, like, what is it going to take for us to not have Doctor Who on BBC? I mean, it seems unfathomable to us, but at some point, I think the BBC, and they probably do this every year, they have to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to continue with it.
Well, that's a great question. I think to answer that, we need to know why the delay, right? So when Tennant needed to be able to go and do other things, they said, "Oh, we're going to have a gap year because we want Tennant to be able to go do what he wants to do." And then they gave Matt a gap year, and then Capaldi had his gap year to where basically it was holiday special to holiday special. That was all that he did that year, So this isn't a Chibnall thing. It's.
But you remember when we were aghast at that time? Oh my God, we have to wait a year for Doctor Who?
Yeah,
but that
we were
was
fools.
Little did we know.
Wasn't that was a talent related though, right? I mean, if you want to
that's
keep
what they said it was.
Yeah,
right. And so they said that it was all talent related, but it seemed to be talent related for all three of them. I think they came to them and went knock on the door and went, "Hey guys, if you wanted to go, ride the coattails of what all the popularity and do one or two other things, so we wouldn't be hurt. If you need to take about a year, that would be great. I mean, you could see if there really is a budget or some other problem that they don't really want to articulate, that's where it would be because it's so consistent, right? Every Doctor has had this, with the exception of Eccleston, because he didn't have a chance because he only had one season.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a way to save money. Move it into the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And, sci-fi costs a lot of money. It's gotten cheaper, but because it's just easier to create the effects and everything, but still production values and such. And, I'd put the production values of this season up against any season of Doctor Who.
And I think that's the truth, because if you kept them at 2005 levels today, people will look at that and go, "What's this, Star Trek?"
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're completely right. And, bravo for them increasing budgets. And, then they also get, big name celebrities now to star on the show, to, guest on it or, have recurring roles. It's pretty awesome for that. And before it was a running joke. Oh, I've got to be a monster on Doctor Who. Now people.
Now I get to be a monster on Doctor Who.
Exactly. And, so, it's bad for us because we're going to have to basically, come up with some great ideas now until sometime in 2021. So, God, that sounds so far away.
Back into the void.
It's not actually a problem for us.
Oh, I know.
There's so much Classic Who we still haven't done. So, and actually, that's part of the show that I enjoy the most. So I don't mind it. Yes, I would like to have New Who, but to be honest with you, like New Who, the last year and a half hasn't really been turning my crank the last, as much as it has in the past. So going back and watching Classic Who is actually kind of a relief.
Yeah, I need the relief too, because I get worried each week, watching Doctor Who now about Mike Gordon. So, so now if we go back to classics, at least I'll be we can breathe again. We can breathe again, not hold our breath each week.
Wow. But I'm right there with Mike Gordon. I agree. It has not been consistent, and there have been some times where it's like, okay. I do love this show, right? Yes, I love the show. Which focus on the things I like a lot, and then there'll be an episode I love, and then there'll be an episode that's not so great, and and stuff like that. It just seems to be like that oscillating a lot lately.
As I've mentioned several times this season, I will reiterate, I am not at even close to the point where I'm going to consider dropping this. But I will also say that it's not as exciting to me as it has been in the past either. So it's just it's good, but it's not great. And with that, we'll probably go into this week's episode.
Segue.
Getting this really weird vibe of your house.
Vibe.
Unrelentingly evil.
I think I'm seeing dead people.
Ghosts don't exist.
Of course not.
The writing. It's Shelley's. One death and history will change in a blink.
Segue. That's perfect, Mike. Let's now jump into this week's episode of Doctor Who. And we'd like to, go out to call it The Haunting of Villa Diodati. And it is another historical episode. And this time we got to meet Mary Shelley, which is pretty darn awesome. But we also got to meet Lord Byron, which is pretty cool. And Percy
Shelley. Like, I think
Percy.
It's funny how, like, Mary, I mean, I get it, Mary gets all the headlines, but it seems funny to me that it's just like the focus always seems to be on Mary Shelley. It's like, no, there are 4 amazing authors here, 3 of which are like household names. Granted, Mary Shelley's story is probably the most unique and in some ways to our story, for our efforts, it's really incredible. I mean, she's doubted as the mother of science fiction, a whole genre, right? So that's for that purpose. But Percy Shelley and Lord Byron are like, they were
slouches.
They were rock stars back then. I mean, they were legit, like, huge.
Well, and that's what was awesome about it was, they were there as guests of Lord Byron, and, they were there to hear him read, and it was just awesome. And, finding out that all the different history behind him, I knew about Mary Shelley and I knew about her husband. I didn't know a ton about Lord Byron. I've read some of his stuff, but that was it. I didn't know any history and such.
Yeah. We'll put that in quotes too. They were there to quote unquote read, hear him read. Yeah. Cause that's, they gathered together. They were kind of, I don't know what went on a lot of times in
yeah, I was like,
in those
Are
villas.
you implying they were especially close?
This is called the Romance period, like, and these are like the leaders of that movement in some respects. So,
what happens on a stormy night?
what happens in Villa Diodati stays in Villa
Diodati. I know, and it's like the 1960s was not the only free love period of history.
Yeah, the initials are VD. Okay, I don't have to say any more than that, right?
Oh man.
Look, but obviously, and this was an important episode for me because, the fact that the Doctor was meeting Mary Shelley in particular, again, like the mother of science fiction, is an amazing story that I can't believe hasn't been told by now. I know there's a Big Finish thing, but those don't count. Now I'm going to get emails. But
that goes to Michael Gordon
Michael, I really am a fan of this show.
But this was an important one. This one, like Tesla, were like, these were historical figures that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that we've never had a Doctor Who with these characters, these actual historical figures before. This is amazing. And this one to me I was expecting great things from this one because of the subject. It should have been great. And I will tell you that I was disappointed.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's dive into it then, because this one was a ghost story, a mystery kind of. And it was interesting because we've been hearing all season about the lone Cyberman. And I was not expecting to get that so early. I was expecting it next week. And for us to get it this episode, it almost makes it now it's a 3-part finale instead of a 2-parter.
2.5.
Yeah. And it was awesome. When I first saw like the figure out on the lake, I said, that kind of looks like a Cyberman. And it was just like, and Judy was like, where? And of course I had to rewind it twice to show her, to make sure that was, what we were seeing. And it was interesting. And I loved the characters in this. I thought it moved very smoothly, and I liked the horror and gothic feel to this. It had a true horror feel to it.
Yeah, it was very Philip Hinchcliffe era.
Mm-hmm, very much so. And for me, it was just, I like the characters. I like how they built towards something. I like, the interaction. I even like the companions in this one. Maybe Ryan, not so much, but that's been a theme all season. But Graham and Yaz were awesome.
Poor boy Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just me. And, I liked the different characters. I loved how, when Ryan got challenged to the duel and he says, oh, he's not going to do anything. He's going to go get a gun. Graham, he's going to go get a gun.
I really enjoyed this episode.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
I mean, I wasn't surprised to see the Cybermen only because I thought, well, that's just the perfect Frankenstein.
Yeah. If you're going to do a story with Mary Shelley, you
almost have to have it.
The Cybermen are like tailor made for that, right?
Well, and especially the way they did it, because he was only kind of half converted or 3/4 converted.
Yes, exactly. The costume design was great for that.
Yeah, I thought that made it especially creepy.
Yeah, I did like that.
Mm-hmm. It was
But it also helped. It helped the other characters realize more what was going on, right? And it's that patchwork man kind of thing going on. Whereas if it was all sealed up in the nice silver suit, I don't know if they would get that same image.
Yeah, I don't like it when the Cybermen look more like robots than cyborgs, because that's the whole body horror thing is that they used to be human, but they were converted. For
me, the parts that I liked the most dealt with the lone Cyberman element of the story. But there's so many other things going on in this story that some of it got lost. But as far as the lone Cyberman stuff, what I liked about it was, for the first time, since the regeneration, the Doctor threw out the flat organizational structure. She actually took on the authority of being the Doctor and being the decision maker. And the weight of all those decisions finally came back to the character for me for that, one moment where she basically said, I'm not taking a poll. I've got to make this decision. Well, Jack said X. Well, Jack's not here. I have to make the decision and then live with the consequences of that. And like, oh, where has this been for 2 years? So I don't know.
Exactly. That's so true.
So so that was fantastic. And so that tied in to the lone Cyberman stuff. And I loved the costume design for the Cybermen because it felt very Frankenstein. But as far as how it fit in with and I use the term loosely, historical, a lot of that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And if you're going to have Mary Shelley, there should have been more with Mary Shelley and the Doctor in how Mary Shelley was clever and how this would influence the Frankenstein story. But they kind of didn't do that. There's been, this story has been done by other shows to greater or lesser degree. There was a Highlander story that covered this. Big Finish has done their version of it. So I was expecting more. They gave Tesla and the Doctor more to do together, and that was more of a Tesla's fame in his episode than they did for Mary Shelley here. And I don't know exactly why, because they had to spend time with dealing with the Cybermen and tricking Percy from pretending, getting him to think he's dead and transferring the thing and and then, oh, by the way, there's real ghosts. Where did that come from? What that's going to hang around in the background. So a lot of the creepy stuff was great, but it was like there's 19,000 things going on in this story, and we're going to actually focus on this little tiny portion of it all the way through.
I can see that.
I'm going to piggyback on that because that's pretty much where I'm at too. This is two stories mashed together and not in a very subtle way. You've got this, it starts out and it's like this gothic tale, and Mary's right. It's right out of it's directed really well. It's really creepy. And then about halfway through, it just chucks all that in the trash and decides to be a Cyberman story. And it's kind of an abrupt thing. And at the end, they just wave it off by going, maybe there are really ghosts. I'm like, all that stuff made no sense now. I mean, like all the stuff you did with the skeleton parts coming to life and seeing the girl and the other woman. And You know, I mean,
that was creepy, but it went nowhere.
It was creepy, right? Like, who didn't think that when Graham was eating that food, it was going to come back to haunt him, right? Like, literally, like that food was not going to be good for him, right? But yet, none of because all of a sudden, the Cybermen are here. We've got to tell this story because it's part of this two-parter that's coming. Like, either make this the first part of a three-parter or don't. It would have been cool if the Cybermen story was like there from the beginning, and then you could have had your moments, like Scott said, with Mary teaming up with the Doctor, and it could have been amazing. But I think the direction,
but that's wrong, dude. Because I'm thinking
it's not wrong. It's my opinion.
No, but what I'm saying is that when you can't compare Tesla with Mary Shelley.
I didn't do that. I didn't do that.
No, you can't. No, you didn't. But I said it's wrong to do that, and it has been brought up this episode. You know, Tesla was a genius. He was up there with the Doctor and was able to create things with it. Mary Shelley's an author.
Well,
big difference.
No.
Yeah.
Contraire.
Yeah.
The guest star of the week, the Doctor finds the cleverness where he or she finds it. This is the mother of science fiction. I think that the events that are happening around them are supposed to be the seed for her story, Frankenstein. But because you don't see her interpreting that or interacting with the Doctor and trying to understand what's going on, those events aren't going to be the seed of Frankenstein like they should be.
To be fair, there is Mary does, we just read Frankenstein a few months ago and we reviewed it for the show, which was great. It's the first time I'd ever read it. And one thing I was surprised by was when we read Frankenstein, all of the science that's in Frankenstein, there is no science in Frankenstein in the novel. Like Mary Shelley does not, she just goes, oh, he reanimated the corpse. And that's it. Like you just take it for, there's no explanation at all of how it happened. She focuses on the humanity, the character, the rage, et cetera, et cetera. So the fact that the end, when Mary confronts the Cybermen here and reaches his humanity, which is not something that the Doctor does, it's what Mary brings to the table. I did think that was true to the character. And actually, I actually love the way that the Shelleys, both of them, as well as Lord Byron was depicted, because that's pretty consistent with who they were, I think, is what at least the legend of them, let's say. Yeah. The fact that Byron was hitting on her all the time, it was hitting on the Doctor a lot, was just great. I mean, we even though we don't need that every week, I thought it was kind of fun to have that happen at least one. Like we haven't really seen anybody really hit on the Doctor like that.
If there was going to be someone to do it, it's going to be his character.
Oh, of course, and that was what's great about it.
You're kind of thinking if Lord Byron's not hitting on her, then what's up with that, right? Like, I'm just glad that someone else acknowledges that she's got great hair, because we did our little poll last week, and I was really surprised. Like, she did not even come close to the top of our best hair of the Doctor poll that we did on our Facebook group. So,
are you kidding? She's got better hair than any of the other.
See, that's what I thought, but Tom won. Tom Baker has the best hair according to people. Go figure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I should have defined best hair a little bit better. But anyway, so yeah, I think what we got, like the little bits and pieces were decent, but like I said, that whole first half of the show just didn't seem to mean anything. Like I said, they just chucked it away. Like, oh, that's just, maybe there are really ghosts. I'm like, come on, don't insult us like that.
I thought that the skeleton was coming alive because they needed to regroup and build up the Cybermen. That's what I thought was going on.
Nope. That's where I thought it was going to also.
Nope. It was just, who knows what it was.
Yeah,
I like the fact that the house kept doing the weird things, and it was kind of like an Esther thing come to life or whatever, right?
Well, they do explain the house.
Yeah.
That's a perception filter,
right. That works, but like all the other stuff, didn't.
It does also explain why the psychic paper was not working too. Right, because the whole thing was, the whole house was filled with that perception filter.
Yeah, I mean, it was all an illusion anyway.
Yeah. But... And like I said, if this is the first part of a three-parter, which is fine. I appreciate that it is, and I appreciate that he used the Cybermen, particularly this particular Cyberman, when it comes to meeting Mary Shelley. So there were parts of this that I liked, but overall I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't it's sort of its own like full story.
Yeah, I wish it was its own full story too. But there was one point when the Doctor was talking about the consequences of the decision before her that I thought was interesting. She said that if this happens, then the world you come from won't exist. You won't exist, and that's sort of a grandfather paradox version of time travel that Doctor Who hasn't had. In the longest time. I mean, they've played with it a little bit in the classic series run, but they've always kind of, you could change the future, but it wasn't like the companion was going to be erased and replaced by, an alternate history version. So I thought that was interesting. Where did that come from all of a sudden? But I mean,
I did like, and you kind of hinted at this earlier, Scott, but I did enjoy the dark, because she's been pretty much for a season and a half, she's been the good mom. She's got the companions that are like her children, but she's kind of coddling them. She's keeping them out of danger. She's kind of, protecting them. Here, she slaps their behinds a little bit. And I like that a little bit, I mean, she, because they're like, they're all like, hey, Jack said this and you can't do that or whatever. And she's like, she says things like history is vulnerable. Words matter.
Yep.
One death, one ripple, history will change in a blink. And then my favorite bit, and you sort of quoted this as well, Scott, is when she says, this team structure isn't flat. Like, I don't want you to think that you guys are like equal to me, right?
Yeah, you're not me.
She says it's mountainous with me at the summit. And then she even further explains, in the stratosphere, alone left to choose. It's like, she is like, I am so far above you guys.
And I've been waiting for 2 years for her to say this. So, I swear, I swear to you, every time I heard, we're a flat organizational structure, I literally cringed. Because that's not, where's my hero, right? Where's my, the character that's the cleverest person in the world, right? Come on now. Have a little faith in yourself, please.
Well, exactly. This was the Doctor I was waiting to get for so long, and it took her to a darker place, more of an authority figure than we've gotten from her, and that was and that's what we were waiting for. And I love the look on their faces, like, how dare she say that to us?
Where did this come from?
Exactly.
Well,
Mom, you're not supposed to say that.
She also says, like, she explains to them, like, because they put her trust, and they're confident that, I mean, I think they said a couple of episodes ago, don't worry, the Doctor will figure it out, right? The Doctor will win. No, don't worry about anything. And they're kind of living this life like the Doctor's protecting them. They're in this bubble. And here they're confronted with, and she's confronted with, like, she would like nothing more than to not give this Cyberman what he wants. But she doesn't have a choice. And she says to them, sometimes even I can't win. And it's a stern talking to, where she's like, look, we're going to do this. I don't want to do it either, but we have to do it. And then we're going to go to the future and fix it. Like get in the car, kids.
Get in the car.
I mean,
we're going really to McDonald's now.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like, there's a really good Doctor moment here. I agree. I think, and because the companions have been so annoying and so like useless for most of this season and a half, it is about time that the Doctor kind of just said that. Yeah. I'm in the I couldn't believe she said that. I'm in the stratosphere. like, you guys are down here on the Earth. I'm way up here.
And I noticed the line also that she did put. She says, I will take you back to 2020. I don't want you guys facing the Cybermen. Bad things happen when companions meet Cybermen.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, let's put it this way: in comparison to Dr. Ruth, right, or the Ruth Doctor, when the Ruth Doctor and our Doctor were interacting in that episode, it really showed you the contrast in how the characters are written, right? Ruth is written the way you would hope the Doctor was, with a sense of personality, a sense of place, totally in control, and our Doctor is sitting there going, what the heck is going on here, and I get that because of the mystery behind this other incarnation that our Doctor is at a loss. I get that. That's fine. You would expect that. But it just highlighted the difference in the writing for the two. So it's not like they can't write a Doctor that way. They just have denied Jodie's Doctor that opportunity until just now. So now the question is, does it stick? Or does once this washes over, do we go back to something else? I don't know, but I hope this is the point where it's like all the other Doctors have had their chance where they say the Earth is defended, and then every time you see me, basically run.
Yeah, I'm a little scared about the next two episodes because they've been really inconsistent, and it's Chibnall writing the two-parter.
Chibnall times two. And do I think he's going to stick the landing? Hell no.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm willing to eat crow too. So there you go.
Yeah, and on the other hand, I enjoyed this episode. I think, obviously more than you guys did, and I think maybe it was because I just sort of, whether I should have or not, let go of the inconsistencies of the things like the ghosts and all that, because I was enjoying the atmosphere so much.
Yeah,
I was enjoying the horror aspect. I love the Philip Hinchcliffe era is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it reminded me so much of that.
So how can you go wrong with a house like that, with the storm and the candlelight? I mean, and the characters that were there, it was really cool.
Oh, and I love the scene when it was Yaz and the maid, and they were there and they saw the ghost, and then when they flashed back after the lightning, and then you looked up and the hand was right above her.
Oh,
that was just like, wow.
Yeah, it was creepy. All right.
Yeah. And there were some great creep moments in this episode, and I think that's what won it over for me.
And never be a servant in a Gothic castle, because you're going to bite it.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Here's your red shirt.
Right.
So I think, we have all across the board on this one, and it was interesting to see. Do we have any, final thoughts where, I know what you guys thought could improve and everything. Did you think it stuck the landing, or did you need, something, a little more explanations, or what?
No, I think that for me, this is a positive episode. I say that I like this episode because it gave me what I've been wanting for a long, long time. And Mary's right. The rest of it, you just sit back and enjoy it. It seems to be a little hard for this writing team to on their stories. So the fact that they got most of this in one episode is pretty spectacular. I'll take it.
I noticed, how the lightning recharged the Cybermen's power core, and I thought, oh well, that's straight from Frankenstein. However, Mary Shelley didn't see it.
Right.
Didn't see that part.
I know. I noticed that too. I'm like, she's not here.
Right,
like,
and that was my point, right? If you're going to have Mary Shelley, shouldn't she be part of the story?
But I think overall, Maxine Alderton did her homework. I've heard that Chibnall has said that she is a huge fan of this particular time period and this particular event. And I think it shows. I mean, I think all the characterizations of the characters match. And if you want to see, in my mind, a really good sort of depiction of what happened that weekend, Ken Russell's Gothic is a really great movie that I don't know, it might be a little controversial. Most of the stuff that Ken Russell does is a little controversial, but to me, I always think of like that's what comes into mind whenever I think of this weekend. But it's such an important weekend, and not just for Frankenstein. Pilidori wrote The Vampire, which is known as the first modern vampire story as well. So, I mean, you get Frankenstein and vampires out of this. But that's not even mentioned at all in this, and that's okay. I mean, it's got to focus on this, but I just, like, I don't like jump scares just to jump scare, right? There needs to be some weight to it. There needs to be some reason for it story-wise. And so for the first 15 minutes, I liked it at the time, but then afterwards I was like, WTF, what was all that for?
Nope, exactly. Totally understand that. So, all right, let's go ahead and rate this then. 1 out of 5 TARDISes, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Scotty, you go first tonight.
I'll do 3.5.
Okay, that doesn't sound bad. Mary.
I'm going to give it a 4. I mean, I really enjoyed most of it, and I loved the claustrophobia of the setting. Really contributed to the unsettling atmosphere. I love that the references to the Philip Hinchcliffe era. I love the way they did the Cybermen, who was especially creepy as sort of, 3/4 Cybermen falling apart. It was very effective. And I did feel like it was sort of a lead in to the next 2 parts. And so I'm interested to see if they like the ghosts do actually come up again and make sense. I kind of doubt they will,
Cool.
but
What about you, Mr. Mike?
You never know.
For me, and I'm just going to leave it at a solid 3. There was obviously, some issues with it, but I liked a lot of it. And I think it did the subject justice in terms of the depiction of it. I just wish, if we are going back to the Hinchcliffe era, I wish that, we could get someone like Robert Holmes to write it.
That would be wonderful. That would be great if we could. But, we wish. I'm going to ride on the coattails of Mary on this one. Sorry, Mary, but I agree with you. Give it a solid 4. I enjoyed it. I watched it and I think it was solid. I think the weak point for me was the Cybermen, or as Judy called it, Cyberborg, because it looked a lot like the Borg with the half face and everything. And I just thought, that was the weakest part to me, but I liked enough of it. The whole Lord Byron thing. You got to see the doctor blush, when Lord Byron was hitting on her and everything. And I loved when she grabbed the helmet. She says, "I really like this helmet. I think I'm going to need it to protect myself."
I'll be back for that.
I'll be back for that, it was just awesome. And, the whole thing with the ghost, but it was a fun story, and it's still light years above last season at this point. And I'm enjoying the season much more than I expected that I would. But, we'll have to see where it goes with the last 2-parter, because I might be tearing my hair out in 2 weeks, when we do it. We'll just have to wait and see. But we definitely would love to hear from you guys at home. Please write us at earthstationwho@esonetwork.com. Definitely would love to hear what you guys have to say. Might as well thank our guests right now. Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It is a great honor.
And once again, where can people find you?
You can find me at drgeeklab.com. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, and a proud member of the ESO network.
Yay! And of course, Mary.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was a really fun one to talk about.
Most definitely. And you want to promote your artwork real quick?
You can find my artwork at maryogle.com or on Etsy at eVision Arts.
Excellent. And Mr. Mike.
And as always, it's my pleasure.
Exactly. So I only have 2 more weeks of fearing what you're going to have to say about the episode.
But they're a loaded 2 weeks.
Oh, trust me, I know. And it's like, all right, so, the night before I watch Doctor Who, I'll just have to, okay, Mike, try to get some sleep. Okay. Because, I'm worried about it. What's Mike Gordon going to say? Oh, my God.
Look,
and remember,
this season, I'm taking off the kid gloves when it comes to Chibnall.
As well you should.
That's what you should.
Yeah.
I gave him a year to get his, stuff together.
Is TARDIS in order?
Yeah. And now it's like, no, it's, I'm not giving you the benefit anymore.
No, and as well, you shouldn't. I agree completely with that. And, do I think Chibnall's doing a great job? I think he's doing better than he did last season. Do I think Jodie's doing a great job? She's fantastic. And,
she had better material.
Well, exactly. But the whole ending scene with her and the companions, if anyone says she's not the Doctor, I will throw that scene at her.
Right.
And everything. That was just amazing. And speaking of amazing, God, let next week be a good episode. We are looking at Ascension of the Cybermen. How's that for a carryover right there? So we will see you all next time here on Earth Station Who. Thanks for listening. And remember, Mike Gordon's email address is...
You have been listening to Earth Station Who, a bi-weekly pop culture podcast dedicated to all things Doctor Who, featuring talent from across the universe. All topics on the show are the sole opinions of the individual and are used for entertainment value alone. You can subscribe to our podcast up on iTunes, Stitcher, or follow our blog at www.esopodcast.com. You can also follow us up on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. If you enjoyed the show, please leave feedback up on iTunes.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the comedy stylings of Hugh from the Borg Collective. When I was part of the Borg Collective, my Borg wife was so fat, when she sat around the collective, she sat around the collective.
The Monster Sci-Fi Show is part of the ESO network. It's sci-fi from a certain point of view.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping through Amazon.com or the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.